The stars looked cold through the cracked viewport of the Taeguk. Captain Jiwoo stood on the bridge, her hands resting on the metal railing that had seen better days. The ship groaned around her, old metal complaining about one more journey it was never meant to make. Behind her, the crew worked in silence. They knew what was coming. Everyone knew. The view screen flickered and showed them the truth they had been running from for 20 years. Ships, hundreds of them. The Velkari fleet had finally caught up. Jiwoo closed her eyes for just a moment. She was tired. Not the kind of tired that sleep could fix. This was the exhaustion that came from watching people die, from making choices that haunted her dreams, from running and never finding a safe place to stop. "They're hailing us." "Captain," said Hyunwoo from the communication station. He was young, too young to remember Earth before the war. He had grown up on colony ships and crowded stations, always moving, always afraid. "Put them through," Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady. She had practiced that steadiness for 2 decades. The view screen changed. A face appeared, blue-skinned and sharp-featured. Fleet Commander Mothron of the Velkari Empire. He looked at her the way someone might look at an insect they were about to crush. Jiwoo had seen that look before. She had seen it on the faces of Velkari commanders at 7 different colonies. She had seen it right before the fire started. "Human vessel," Mothron said. His voice was smooth, almost pleasant. "You will power down your engines and prepare to be boarded. Your species has run far enough." Around the bridge, the crew tensed. Hyunwoo's hand moved toward the weapons console, but Jiwoo raised one finger. "Wait, not yet. You've chased us across 3 star systems," Jiwoo said. "Destroyed 12 colonies. Killed millions of my people. And now you've found our last ship." She paused. "Why? What did we ever do to deserve this?" Mothron smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Your people existed in space that was ours. That is crime enough. We asked you to leave peacefully. You refused, so we removed you." "You didn't remove us," Jiwoo said quietly. "You murdered us. You burned our homes. You killed our children. There's a difference." "Not to us," Mothron replied. "Now you will surrender or you will be destroyed. Those are your only options." Jiwoo looked at him for a long moment. She thought about all the people she had saved. She thought about all the people she hadn't saved. She thought about the cargo in the hold of her ship, sealed away in a container that hummed with old power. "You asked me to identify myself," Jiwoo said. "You want to know who you're talking to?" "I'm talking to a dead woman," Mothron said. "On a dead ship." "With a dead species?" "No," Jiwoo said. The word hung in the air like a blade. "You're talking to a revenant." The change was instant. She saw it in Mothron's eyes. The way they widened. The way his confident smile faltered. Around him she could see other Velkari on the bridge of his flagship. They were looking at each other with something that might have been fear. "That's impossible," Mothron said, but his voice was different now. "Revenants are just myths. Old stories to scare children, are they?" Jiwoo asked. She moved closer to the view screen. "Your people have stories about my people. Very old stories. Stories about a species that refuses to die. A species that gets back up no matter how many times you knock it down. A species that turns suffering into strength." She could see Mothron was trying to regain his composure. He was a fleet commander. He had destroyed worlds. He would not be frightened by old legends. "Human desperation," he said. "You're trying to buy time with fairy tales." "Am I?" Jiwoo turned to Hyunwoo. "Show him what we found at Proxima Station." Hyunwoo's fingers moved across his console. New images appeared on the view screen. Ancient ruins, stone walls covered in writing. And in the center of it all, a device that looked like it had been built by hands that understood things the current galaxy had forgotten. Mothran stared at the images. His blue skin seemed to go paler. "That's not possible," he whispered. "We destroyed all records. We erased it from history." "But not from your myths," Jiwoo said. "Not from your legends. Your ancestors fought something terrible once, didn't they? Something so bad that they created a weapon to stop it. But the weapon scared them more than the enemy did. So they hid it, sealed it away, tried to forget about it." She smiled, and it was not a happy smile. "They forgot to destroy all the maps, though. And humans are very good at finding things, especially when we're desperate." One of Mothran's officers leaned forward. He was wearing the uniform of a Velkari general, but something about his face was different. "More human." "Commander," the officer said. "That's the echo device. The myths are real." Mothran turned to him. Taesung, you're human. How do you know our myths? The general named Taesung stood up straighter. I was captured when I was 5 years old. You raised me as one of yours. Trained me. Taught me your history, including the parts you thought were just stories. He looked at Ji-woo through the view screen. She's telling the truth, Commander. The Echo device was created to fight an enemy that wouldn't surrender, but it was too terrible to use. It doesn't just kill, it makes you remember, Ji-woo nodded slowly. Your people created a weapon that forces you to experience every death you've caused. Every scream. Every moment of suffering. And you were so horrified by what you'd made that you buried it and prayed no one would ever find it. But we did find it, she continued. And we brought it here, because you need to understand something about humans, Fleet Commander. We don't just survive. We remember every single death, every lost colony, every child who died crying for parents who couldn't save them. Her voice grew harder. You wanted to know who stands before you? I'll tell you. I'm someone your legends warned you about. I'm someone who found the weapon you were too afraid to use. And I'm someone who has nothing left to lose. Mothran's hands were gripping his command chair now. Around him, his bridge crew looked terrified. You're bluffing, he said. You wouldn't use it. The Echo device doesn't discriminate. It would affect you too. I know, Ji-woo said simply. I've already accepted that price. She turned to her crew. They were all watching her. Young Hyun-woo, old engineer Da-eun, who had kept the ship running with spare parts and prayers. Navigator Minji, who had guided them through asteroid fields and enemy patrols. They all knew what she was about to do. They all nodded. Last chance, Ji-woo said to Mothran. Leave and never come back. Let us live, Mothran's face hardened. You're one ship. I have 300. Even if your weapon is real, we will destroy you before you can use it. Ji-woo felt something break inside her chest. It was hope, finally dying after holding on for so long. Then you've made your choice, she said. And I've made mine. She looked at Hyun-woo. Activate the Echo device. His hand moved to the console. Red lights began flashing across the bridge of the Taeguk. And somewhere deep in the hold, in a container that had been sealed for thousands of years, something ancient and terrible began to wake up. The Echo device didn't make a sound when it activated. That was the first thing that surprised everyone. They expected something dramatic, an explosion or a blinding light. Instead, there was just a feeling, like the air had become heavy, like gravity had suddenly decided to push in directions it wasn't supposed to. On the bridge of the Taeguk, Ji-woo watched the readouts on Hyun-woo's console. Energy signatures were spreading out from their ship in waves, invisible waves that passed through metal and shields like they weren't even there. The Velkari fleet hung in space around them, 300 warships that could have reduced her vessel to atoms. They weren't firing. That was good. Maybe they were confused. Maybe they were scared. Maybe they were trying to figure out what was happening. Then the screaming started. It came through the view screen first. Mothran's bridge had been quiet and professional just moments ago. Now Velkari officers were falling from their stations. Some were clutching their heads. Others were just staring at nothing with wide, horrified eyes. And they were screaming, all of them. Different voices, but the same sound. The sound of people seeing something they couldn't unsee. Mothran himself was still standing, but barely. His hands gripped his command chair so hard his knuckles had turned white. He was looking at something that wasn't there. Something only he could see. What have you done? He whispered. What have you done? Ji-woo felt it then, the echo reaching into her own mind. At first it was just whispers, voices she recognized. Then the whispers became clearer. She saw faces, faces of people she knew. People she had left behind, Colony 7, the evacuation. She had 3 ships and 10,000 people. She could only take 3,000. She remembered their faces as the ships lifted off. The people left on the ground watching them leave. She had promised to come back. She never did. The Velkari burned that colony 6 hours later. Captain? Hyunwoo's voice sounded far away. Captain, are you all right? Ji-woo blinked. The vision faded but didn't disappear. It sat behind her eyes, waiting. I'm fine, she lied. Status report. The echo is spreading through the Velkari fleet, Hyunwoo said. He looked pale. Energy signatures in all their ships. They're not firing back. Most of them aren't even moving. On the view screen, Mothran had fallen to his knees. He was crying. Ji-woo had never seen a Velkari cry before. She didn't think they could. Make it stop, Mothran begged. Please make it stop. But the echo didn't stop. It was designed not to stop. It was designed to show everything. Every death. Every moment of suffering. And the Velkari had caused a lot of suffering. Tai Sung, the Velkari general who looked human, was standing alone on Mothran's bridge. He wasn't screaming. He was just standing there with tears running down his face. I remember now, he said quietly. I remember everything. My real parents, my home. The day the Velkari came. He looked at Mothran. I was 5 years old. You took me from the burning ruins of Colony 3. You said you were saving me, training me, making me better. He laughed, but it was a terrible sound. You were just erasing me, making me forget, making me one of you. Mothran couldn't answer. He was seeing his own memories now. The colonies he had ordered destroyed. The ships he had hunted down. The families he had killed. All of it playing in his mind at once, over and over. Jiwoo turned away from the view screen. She couldn't watch anymore. Around her bridge, her crew was also struggling. Daeyeon was crying. Minji was gripping her console like it was the only real thing in the world. Hyunwoo was just staring at his hands. I see them, Hyunwoo said. All the people from Colony 9, the ones we couldn't save. They're asking me why we left them. I know, Jiwoo said softly. I see them too. This was the price of the Echo device. It didn't just judge the enemy. It judged everyone. Every commander who had ever sent people to die. Every officer who had made impossible choices. Every person who had survived when others hadn't. Jiwoo saw them all now. Every face. Every name. Colony 7, Colony 9, Station Kepler. The transport ship Horizon. All the people she had failed to save. They weren't angry. That was somehow worse. They were just sad. Disappointed. They had trusted her and she had let them down. Captain, Daeyeon said. Her voice was shaking. How long does this last? Jiwoo checked the ancient readouts they had found with the device. The Velkari had left instructions. Not how to use it. Just warnings. Stories of what happened when it was used before. Hours, Jiwoo said. Maybe days. Until every memory has been witnessed. Every death acknowledged. Every scream heard. On the view screen, more Velkari ships were appearing. The echo was spreading through relay stations that Jiwoo's people had built during their long retreat. Every Velkari in the sector was experiencing this now. Thousands of them, maybe tens of thousands, they were all seeing the same thing. Every human they had killed. Every home they had burned. Every child they had orphaned. The echo made sure they understood exactly what they had done. This is wrong, Hyunwoo said suddenly. Captain, this is wrong. We're no better than they are if we do this. We're already doing it, Jiwoo said. The echo can't be stopped once it starts. But we chose this, Hyunwoo insisted. We chose to use it. That makes us responsible, Jiwoo wanted to argue. She wanted to say this was justice. That the Velkari deserved this for what they had done. But the echo was showing her something else now. It was showing her this moment. This choice. The moment she decided to activate a weapon so terrible that its creators had tried to erase it from history. She saw the faces of the Velkari who were suffering now. Not commanders like Mothran, just soldiers. Just people who had followed orders. People who maybe hadn't even wanted to fight this war, and she was torturing them. All of them. With memories of crimes they might not have even committed personally. What have I done? Jiwoo whispered. Taesung's voice came through the view screen. He had moved closer to the camera. Behind him, Mothran was curled on the floor, barely conscious. Captain Jiwoo, Taesung said. I need to tell you something. Something I should have told you before. Jiwoo looked up at him. I'm not just a captured human, Taesung said. I'm an agent. Earth's government planted me 30 years ago. Before the war even started. They knew this might happen. They knew humanity might need someone on the inside. Someone who could broker peace when the time came. He took a deep breath. I've been feeding your resistance information for years. Helping you escape. Guiding you to Proxima Station. I led you to the Echo device. But I never thought you would actually use it. You wanted us to find it, Jiwoo said slowly. But not use it, why? Deterrence, Taesung said. If the Velkari knew you had it, they might have stopped. But now you've actually used it. Now you've shown them what it does. And that changes everything. How? Jiwoo asked. Because now they know humans will go this far, Taesung said. They know you'll use weapons even your enemies were afraid to use. They know you'll make everyone suffer, even yourselves, to win. He looked at something off-screen. The fleet is disabled. Most of the crews are unconscious. Some have gone mad. You've won, Captain. The war is over. But what did you win? Jiwoo felt the echo pushing into her mind again. More memories. More faces. But these were new. These were Valkyrie faces. Soldiers who had just been following orders. Engineers who had just been doing their jobs. Families who had just wanted to serve their empire. And they were all suffering now because of her choice. How do I stop it? Jiwoo asked desperately. Taesung, how do I make it stop? You can deactivate it, Taesung said. The controls are on your ship. But every moment you wait, more people suffer. Valkyrie and human alike. The echo doesn't care about sides. Jiwoo looked at Hyunwoo. Can you shut it down? Yes, Captain, Hyunwoo said. But the fleet will recover. They could still attack us. I know, Jiwoo said. She looked at the view screen, at Mothran suffering on the floor, at all the Valkyrie ships drifting helpless in space. But we've proven our point. They know what we can do now. Maybe that's enough. She took a deep breath. Deactivate the echo device. Hyunwoo's hands moved across the console. The heavy feeling in the air lifted. The whispers in Jiwoo's mind faded to silence. Around the Valkyrie fleet, ships began to stir again as their crews slowly recovered consciousness. On the view screen, Mothran was climbing back to his feet. He looked different now. Older. Broken. He looked at Jiwoo with eyes that had seen too much. What are you? He asked quietly. Jiwoo thought about her answer carefully. Someone your legends warned you about, she said finally. Someone who found your darkest weapon and used it. Someone who is willing to suffer to make you understand our suffering. She paused. And someone who is willing to stop. To show mercy. Even to an enemy who never showed us any. Mothran stared at her for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked everyone on both bridges. He bowed his head. The silence after the echo stopped was almost worse than the screaming. Jiwoo stood on her bridge and listened to 300 warships full of people who had just experienced something no mind should ever have to experience. They weren't moving, not attacking, not fleeing, just floating in space like broken toys. Captain, Dayun said quietly, I'm reading life signs on all the Valkyrie ships. But most of the crew members are unconscious. The ones who are awake aren't at their stations. Jiwoo nodded. She felt hollow inside. Empty. The echo had shown her so many things. She had deactivated it, but the memories remained. They would always remain. You couldn't unsee what the echo showed you. That was part of its design, part of its punishment. On the view screen, Mothran was still on his knees. His officers were slowly getting up around him. Some were crying. Some were just staring at nothing. One Valkyrie officer was rocking back and forth, murmuring something that sounded like a name over and over. Taesung moved to Mothran's side and helped him to his feet. The fleet commander looked decades older than he had just an hour ago. His blue skin was pale. His eyes were red from crying. He looked like a man who had seen the end of the world and realized he had caused it. I remember them all, Mothran said. His voice was barely a whisper. Every face. Every name. Every final moment. How do you live with this? Jiwoo felt something bitter in her throat. You learn to. Because you don't have a choice. Because someone has to keep going. Because if you stop, then they all died for nothing. She paused. But it never gets easier. The weight just gets heavier. Mothran looked at her through the view screen. Really looked at her. You've been carrying this for 20 years. Every person you couldn't save. Every choice you made. Every time you had to pick who lived and who died. Yes, Jiwoo said simply. And you still chose to activate the echo, Mothran said, even knowing it would show you your own failures. Your own guilt. Why? Jiwoo thought about her answer. Because you needed to understand. You needed to know what you did to us, what you took from us, and the only way to make you understand was to make you feel it, all of it. She looked down at her hands. They were shaking. But Hyunwoo was right. This was wrong. I thought I was seeking justice, but I was just spreading suffering. Making more people hurt. Creating more victims, Captain, Hyunwoo said softly. You did what you thought you had to do. That doesn't make it right, Jiwoo said. That's what commanders tell themselves to sleep at night. I did what I had to do. But the truth is, we always have choices. I chose this. I chose to use a weapon so terrible that even its creators were afraid of it. And now I have to live with that choice. She looked at the view screen again. Just like Mothran has to live with his choices. Just like all of us have to live with what we've done. Tae-sung stepped forward. Captain Ji-woo, Fleet Commander Mothran, I think we need to talk about what happens next. What happens next? Mothran laughed, but it was a broken sound. What could possibly happen next? I've seen what my people did. What I ordered them to do. I've experienced every death. Every moment of suffering. How can anything happen next? Because the war isn't over just because you're suffering, Tae-sung said bluntly. There are other Velkari fleets, other commanders who didn't experience the echo. If they find out what happened here, they'll come. And they'll be angry. They'll want revenge for what was done to you and your crew. Ji-woo felt cold. She hadn't thought about that. She had been so focused on stopping Mothran, on making the Velkari understand that she hadn't considered the larger consequences. How long do we have? She asked. Hours, Tae-sung said. Maybe a day. I've been blocking communications from this fleet, but that can't last forever. Someone will notice the silence. Someone will come to investigate. Then we need to decide what we're going to do, Ji-woo said. She looked at Mothran. You surrendered. You bowed your head. Was that real? Or were you just too broken to fight back? Mothran was quiet for a long moment. Around him, his officers were listening. They all looked broken in different ways. But they were listening. I don't know, Mothran said finally. I don't know what I am anymore. I thought I was a soldier, a commander, a servant of the Empire. But the echo showed me what I really am. A murderer, a destroyer of worlds, a killer of children, his voice cracked. I can't be that person anymore. I won't be. But I don't know how to be anything else. Then learn, Ji-woo said. Learn to be something better. Learn to be someone who fixes what they broke, someone who saves instead of destroys. How? Mothran asked. How do I fix the murder of millions? How do I bring back the dead? You can't, Ji-woo said. But you can make sure no one else dies. You can use your fleet to protect instead of destroy. You can teach other Velkari what you learned. You can change, she took a breath. Or you can give up. You can let the guilt eat you alive. You can decide that nothing matters anymore. That's your choice. But if you make that choice, then every person you killed died for absolutely nothing. Because you learned nothing from their deaths. Mothran stared at her. You're asking me to become a traitor to my people. I'm asking you to become better than what you were, Ji-woo said. I'm asking you to choose peace instead of war, life instead of death, hope instead of hatred. And if I refuse? Ji-woo felt the weight of the echo device in her ship's hold. Then I reactivate the echo, and this time I don't stop it. This time I let it spread to every Velkari in the galaxy. I let them all experience what you experienced. And I let it run until every single memory has been witnessed, until your entire species understands what they've done. That would drive them mad, Mothran said. All of them. I know, Ji-woo said. But I'll do it if I have to, because I'm someone your legends warned you about. I'm someone who has lost everything. Someone who has nothing left but the will to survive. And survival means making sure you never hunt us again. The bridge was silent. On both ships, everyone was watching their commanders, waiting to see what would happen next. Finally, Mothran straightened his shoulders. What do you want from me? Peace, Ji-woo said. Real peace. Not just a ceasefire. Not just you fleeing and coming back stronger later. Real permanent peace. An end to the war. An end to the hunting. An end to the dying. I'm one fleet commander, Mothran said. I don't speak for the Empire. Then make them listen, Ji-woo said. You have 300 ships. Ships full of people who just experienced what the echo does. Ships full of people who now understand what war really costs. Use them. Make them understand. Make the Empire understand. And if they refuse? Ji-woo's eyes were hard. Then we go to war. A real war. Not your Empire hunting my people, but both of us fighting with everything we have. And I promise you, Fleet Commander, humanity has spent 20 years learning how to fight you. We've studied your tactics, your weaknesses, your fears. We've become very good at surviving, and if we have to, we'll show you just how good. Mothran looked at his officers. They were still recovering from the echo, still processing what they had experienced. But they were listening, and Ji-woo could see something in their eyes. Something that might have been understanding, or maybe just fear. Either way, it was enough. I'll do it, Mothran said. I'll try to broker peace. But I need something from you. What? Don't use the echo again, Mothran said. Please, it's too terrible, too cruel. Even as a threat, even as a deterrent, it's too much. Knowing that weapon exists, knowing what it does, knowing that you're willing to use it. That's nightmare enough, Jiwoo thought about it. The echo device sat in her cargo hold, ancient and terrible. A weapon that judged everyone equally. A weapon that had judged her and found her wanting. I can't promise that, she said. If your people come for us again, if they hunt us again, I'll use it. I'll use everything I have to protect my people. That's what commanders do. That's the burden we carry. Even knowing the cost? Especially knowing the cost, Jiwoo said. That's what makes it a burden. Mothran nodded slowly. Then I'll do everything I can to make sure it never comes to that. I'll convince the Empire to make peace. I'll show them what war really costs. I'll make them understand. Good, Jiwoo said. She felt tired, so tired. Taesung, you're with Mothran? For now, Taesung said. Someone needs to make sure he keeps his word. And someone needs to teach the Velkari about humanity. The real humanity. Not the monsters their propaganda shows them. Not the victims they like to imagine. But the actual people, complex and flawed and trying their best. Just like everyone else, Jiwoo said quietly. Just like everyone else, Taesung agreed. Jiwoo looked at her crew. Hyunwoo was watching her with worried eyes. Taeyun was wiping away tears. Minji was just staring at her console, probably seeing memories she couldn't forget. We need to discuss something, Jiwoo said to them. Something I saw when the echo was active. They all looked at her. I saw all the people I failed to save, Jiwoo said. And they were disappointed in me. Not angry. Just disappointed, like I had let them down. And maybe I did. Maybe I could have saved more people, made better choices, been a better commander, she paused. But I also saw you. All of you. And I saw every moment you trusted me. Every time you followed my orders even when they seemed impossible. Every time you believed in me even when I didn't believe in myself. And I realized something. What? Hyunwoo asked. That we survived, Jiwoo said. The neutral station hung in space between human and Velkari territory. It was old, built by a species that had gone extinct centuries ago. Nobody lived there anymore. It was just empty corridors and silent rooms. The perfect place for enemies to meet. Jiwoo stood in what used to be a conference room. Through the windows, she could see both fleets. Her single battered colony ship on one side, Mothran's 300 warships on the other. They had been sitting like that for 3 days now. 3 days of careful negotiations. 3 days of trying to turn enemies into something else. The door opened and Mothran entered. He moved slowly like an old man. The echo had aged him. It had aged all of them. Behind him came Taesung and a young Velkari officer named Subin. Subin was different from the other Velkari. She had opposed the war from the beginning. She had tried to convince her commanders to leave humans alone. Nobody had listened to her. Now suddenly everyone was listening. Captain Jiwoo, Mothran said. His voice was formal, careful. They had agreed to record everything. Every word would be sent to both Earth's government and the Velkari Empire. This wasn't just a meeting between two commanders. It was history being made. Fleet Commander Mothran, Jiwoo replied. She was wearing her dress uniform. It had been in storage for years. It smelled like dust and old memories, but it was clean and pressed. Appearances mattered in moments like this. They sat down across from each other. Hyunwoo stood behind Jiwoo. Taeyun was there too, along with Minji. On the Velkari side, Subin took a seat next to Mothran. Taesung sat at the end of the table between both groups. Neither human nor Velkari, or maybe both. It was hard to say. We've been talking for 3 days, Jiwoo said. About terms. About conditions. About how to end a war that should never have started. I think it's time we made it official. I agree, Mothran said. He pulled out a data pad. I've spoken with the Velkari High Command. They're still processing what happened to my fleet. What happened to all the crews who experienced the echo. But they understand one thing clearly. Humanity is not prey. Humanity is not weak. Humanity is dangerous, he looked at Jiwoo. They're afraid of you now. That's why they're willing to negotiate. Not because they suddenly grew a conscience. Not because they realized the war was wrong. They're afraid you'll use the echo device again. I know, Jiwoo said quietly. I wish it was different. I wish they wanted peace because it was the right thing to do. But fear is enough. Fear can stop a war. Fear can save lives. Even if it's based on terror? Hyunwoo asked. He had been struggling with this for days. The idea that peace was only possible because they had tortured an entire fleet. That didn't feel like victory. It felt like becoming the monsters they were fighting. Even then, Jiwoo said, because the alternative is more death, more colonies burned, more children orphaned, more families destroyed. I'll take peace built on fear over war built on hatred any day. Subin spoke up. She had a soft voice, but there was steel underneath it. I've been reviewing the terms we discussed. The Velkari Empire will provide resources to help rebuild human colonies. We'll give you 3 systems in unclaimed space, systems with planets that can support life. We'll also provide technology and materials for construction, enough to house 1 million people. In exchange, Mothran continued, humanity will not use the Echo device again. You'll seal it away. You'll share the location with a neutral third party, someone both our species trust. If either side breaks the treaty, the location will be revealed to the other. Mutually assured destruction, Jiwoo said. But with memory instead of bombs. Exactly, Mothran said. Neither side wants to experience the Echo again, so neither side will break the peace. It's not trust, but it's stability. Jiwoo looked at her crew. They were all thinking the same thing. This wasn't the peace they had dreamed of. It wasn't friendship or understanding or any of the noble things peace was supposed to be. It was just 2 tired species agreeing to stop hurting each other because the alternative was too painful. But it was still peace. There's one more condition, Jiwoo said. The Velkari officers who ordered the genocide, the ones who planned the colony burnings, the ones who gave the kill orders. They need to face justice, Mothran's face hardened. You want us to hand over our own people. I want the ones responsible to be held accountable, Jiwoo said. Not every Velkari, not the soldiers who were just following orders, but the ones who made this war happen, the ones who decided humanity needed to be exterminated. They need to answer for what they did. And who judges them? Mothran asked. Your people, our people, some neutral court? All of them, Taesung said. He had been quiet until now. Create a joint tribunal. Velkari judges, human judges, representatives from other species. Let everyone see the evidence. Let everyone hear what happened. Make it public. Make it transparent, he leaned forward. Don't hide what happened. Don't pretend it was justified or necessary. Show the galaxy what war really looks like. Show them what genocide costs. Make sure nobody forgets, Subin nodded. I support this. The Velkari Empire needs to face what we did. We need to acknowledge it. Own it, learn from it. Otherwise, we'll just do it again. To some other species, in some other war. Mothran was quiet for a long time. He looked older than ever. Finally, he spoke. I'll recommend it to High Command. I can't promise they'll agree, but I'll try. Because you're right. We need to remember what we did, all of us. Even the ones who didn't experience the Echo. Especially the ones who didn't experience the Echo. Jiwoo felt something loosen in her chest. It wasn't relief exactly, more like the first small step towards something that might someday become relief. Then we have an agreement, she said. She pulled out her own datapad. I'll need to send this to Earth for approval, but I'm authorized to negotiate on behalf of the human survivors. I think they'll accept these terms. Even though it means sealing away the Echo device? Mothran asked. Even though it means giving up your ultimate weapon? The Echo isn't a weapon, Jiwoo said. It's a curse. It hurts everyone who experiences it. Enemy and friend. Guilty and innocent. Using it doesn't make me strong. It makes me a monster, she paused. Besides, we don't need it anymore. You know what we can do now. You know what we're capable of. That knowledge is weapon enough. True, Mothran said. Very true. Taesung pulled out a formal treaty document. It had been prepared over the last 3 days. Dozens of pages. Hundreds of clauses. Everything from territory boundaries to trade agreements to mutual defense pacts. It was comprehensive, complete, a roadmap for peace between 2 species that had been trying to kill each other for 20 years. This is it, Taesung said. Both sides sign this and the war is over. Officially, finally, over. Jiwoo looked at the document. She thought about all the people who hadn't lived to see this moment. All the colonists, all the soldiers, all the children. They had died in fire and fear and pain. They had died hoping someone would stop the killing, hoping someone would end the war. Now someone was ending it. And they would never know. Captain, Hyunwoo said softly. Are you all right? No, Jiwoo said honestly. I'm not all right. I won't be all right for a long time. Maybe never. But that doesn't matter right now. What matters is this. She picked up a pen, an actual pen, ink on paper. They had agreed that the treaty should be physical. Something real. Something that couldn't be deleted or hacked or lost in a computer crash. Paper and ink. The oldest technology. The most permanent. Ji-woo signed her name at the bottom of the document. Her hand was steady. She had practiced that steadiness for 20 years. Mothran took the pen next. He hesitated for just a moment. Then he signed. His signature was shaky, less certain, but it was there. Subin signed as a witness. Taesung signed as the neutral mediator. Hyunwoo and Da-yoon signed for the human side. More Velkari officers came in and signed. The pages filled with names. Proof that this was real. That this was happening. When it was done, Taesung held up the document. The war between humanity and the Velkari Empire is now officially over. As of this moment, both species are at peace. The killing stops. The hunting stops. The dying stops. He looked at everyone in the room. Now the hard part begins. Now we have to actually live with each other. Now we have to build something better than what we had before. How do we do that? Subin asked. How do we move past what happened? How do we forgive? I don't know if we can forgive, Ji-woo said. I don't know if I can, or if I should. The people who died deserve to be remembered. Their suffering deserves to be acknowledged. Forgiveness might mean forgetting. And I can't forget. Then what do we do? Subin asked. We remember, Ji-woo said. We remember what happened. We remember what it cost. We remember the faces and the names and the screams. And we use those memories to make sure it never happens again. We turn our ghosts into guardians, Mothran said softly. We let the dead guide us toward something better. Yes, Ji-woo said. Exactly that. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the window, the fleets were still there. Still watching each other. Still wary. But not shooting. Not attacking. Just watching. It was a start. I should get back to my ship, Ji-woo said finally. I need to tell my people the war is over. I need to tell them we won. Did we? 3 years had passed since the treaty was signed. 3 years of peace. 3 years of rebuilding. 3 years of learning how to live without war. Ji-woo stood at the memorial on New Seoul Colony. It was the first new human settlement built after the peace. A city of 200,000 people. Homes and schools and hospitals. Parks where children played. Streets where people walked without fear. It was small compared to what humanity had lost. But it was something. It was a beginning. The memorial was simple. A wall of black stone with names carved into it. Hundreds of thousands of names. Every human who had died in the war. Every person who had been killed in the colony burnings. Every soldier who had fought. Every civilian who had suffered. All their names preserved forever in stone. Ji-woo ran her fingers over the names. She knew some of them. She had served with some. She had failed to save others. Each name was a weight she carried. Each name was a ghost that followed her. Captain, a voice said behind her. Ji-woo turned. Mothran stood there. He looked even older now. The 3 years hadn't been kind to him. He had spent them testifying at the war crimes trials, explaining what happened, taking responsibility. Some Velkari had called him a traitor. Others had called him a hero. He didn't seem to care about either label. Fleet commander, Ji-woo said. She had retired from active duty a year ago, but old habits were hard to break. I didn't expect to see you here. I come once a month, Mothran said. To remind myself. To remember what I did. He walked to the memorial wall and placed his hand on it. His blue skin looked pale against the black stone. I knew some of these names. I gave orders that killed them. I'm responsible for hundreds of thousands of these deaths. I know, Ji-woo said. Do you hate me? Mothran asked. Ji-woo thought about it. 3 years ago she would have said yes without hesitation. Now the answer was more complicated. I hate what you did. I hate the choices you made. I hate that all these people are dead because of orders you gave. She paused. But I don't hate you. Not anymore. You're trying to be better. You're facing what you did. You're not running from it or making excuses. That doesn't fix anything. It doesn't bring anyone back. But it matters, Mothran nodded slowly. I don't know how to live with what I did. Every day I wake up and I remember. The echo showed me every face, every death. And even though the device is sealed away now, the memories remain. I see them in my sleep. I see them when I'm awake. I'll see them until I die. Good, Ji-woo said. Not cruelly, just honestly. You should remember. We all should. That's the price of what we did. That's the cost of command. We make choices that hurt people, and we have to live with those choices forever. A young woman approached them, Subin. She was no longer a junior officer. She had risen through the Velkari ranks quickly. Many Velkari wanted change now. They wanted leaders who questioned orders instead of blindly following them. Subin was one of those leaders. Captain Jiwoo. Commander Mothron, Subin said. The ceremony is about to begin. They're waiting for you. Jiwoo and Mothron followed her to a platform near the memorial. Thousands of people had gathered. Humans and Velkari, together. 3 years ago that would have been impossible. Now it was just another day. Hyunwoo was there, looking nervous. He had been asked to speak at the ceremony. He didn't like public speaking, but he had agreed because someone needed to tell the story. Someone needed to explain what happened and why it mattered. Hyunwoo stepped up to the podium. The crowd grew quiet. 3 years ago, Hyunwoo began. I was on the bridge of the Taeguk when Captain Jiwoo activated the Echo device. I was terrified, not of the Velkari fleet, not of dying, but of what that weapon would do, what it would show us, what it would make us become. He paused. The Echo doesn't just punish the guilty, it judges everyone. It shows you every choice you made, every person you hurt, every time you failed. It doesn't care about your reasons or your justifications. It just shows you the truth. And the truth is hard, Hyunwoo continued. The truth is that war has no heroes, just survivors. People who made impossible choices and lived with the consequences. People who did terrible things for what they thought were good reasons. People who hurt others and were hurt in return. He looked at Jiwoo. Captain Jiwoo used a weapon that tortured thousands of people. She made them suffer. She made them see things no one should have to see. And she did it to end a war, to save her people, to make the killing stop. Was she right? Hyunwoo asked. I don't know. I still don't know. But I know this. The war is over. People are alive who would have died.
Children are growing up who would have been killed.
Homes are being built that would have been burned. That has to count for something. The crowd was silent, listening, thinking. We call this place New Soul Colony, Hyunwoo said. But it's not just a colony. It's a promise. A promise that we won't forget what happened. A promise that we'll remember the cost. A promise that we'll do better. He stepped back from the podium. The crowd applauded. Not loudly. Not enthusiastically. Just respectfully, acknowledging what he had said. Acknowledging the truth in his words. Taesung stepped up next. He had spent the last 3 years working as a bridge between species. Teaching Velkari about humans. Teaching humans about Velkari. Trying to build understanding where there had only been hatred. I was 5 years old when the Velkari took me, Taesung said. They raised me as one of their own. Taught me their culture. Their values. Their way of seeing the world. For 30 years I didn't even remember I was human. Then the Echo device activated, Taesung continued. And I remembered everything. My real parents, my home, the day the Velkari came and destroyed it all. I remembered being 5 years old and watching my world burn. His voice was steady, but Jiwoo could see tears in his eyes. I was angry, so angry. I wanted revenge. I wanted every Velkari to suffer like I had suffered, like my people had suffered. But then I looked at the Velkari around me, Taesung said, and I saw they were suffering too. The Echo was showing them what they had done, forcing them to understand. And I realized something. Revenge doesn't fix anything. It just creates more suffering, more pain, more ghosts. So instead of revenge, I chose something harder, Taesung said. I chose to help, to teach, to build bridges, to make sure what happened to me never happens to anyone else. Human or Velkari or any other species, he paused. That's what peace is, not forgiveness. Not forgetting, just choosing to stop hurting each other, choosing to build instead of destroy, choosing to remember the dead by protecting the living. The crowd was quiet again, thinking about his words, thinking about what they meant. Finally, Jiwoo stepped up to the podium. She hadn't planned to speak. She had retired specifically to avoid moments like this. But Hyunwoo had asked her, begged her, said the people needed to hear from her, needed to understand. So here she was. Fleet Commander Mothron asked me a question once, Jiwoo said. He asked who I was, who stood before him. I told him I was someone his legends warned about, someone who would find their darkest weapon and use it. Someone who would make them understand what they had done. I meant it as a threat, Jiwoo continued. I wanted him to be afraid. I wanted all the Velkari to be afraid. Because fear was the only language they seemed to understand. Fear was the only thing that would make them stop hunting us. But I was wrong, Jiwoo said. Not about the fear. The fear worked. The Velkari stopped hunting us because they were terrified of the Echo device, terrified of experiencing it again. That fear ended the war. She looked at the crowd, at the humans and Velkari standing together. But fear isn't what built this. Fear isn't what created New Soul Colony. Fear isn't what brought us here today to remember the dead together. Hope did that, Jiwoo said. Hope that we could be better. Hope that the war could end. Hope that humans and Velkari could live without killing each other. Hope is what built this city. Hope is what brought you all here. Hope is what lets us remember the past without being destroyed by it. The Velkari legends warned about humans, Jiwoo said. They said we were dangerous, that we refused to die, that we turned suffering into strength. And they were right. We are all of those things. But the legends missed something important, Jiwoo continued. They missed that humans also hope. We hope even when hope is foolish. We hope even when the odds are impossible. We hope even when everything seems lost. That's what makes us dangerous. Not our weapons, not our anger, but our stubborn, foolish, impossible hope. She smiled. A small, sad smile. I'm someone your legends warned about, but not because I used the Echo device, not because I threatened your fleet. I'm someone your legends warned about because I refused to give up, because I kept hoping, because I chose peace even when revenge would have been easier. And you know what? Jiwoo said. Every person here is someone the legends warned about. Every human who survived. Every Velkari who chose to change. Every person who decided to build instead of destroy. We're all dangerous, because we all hope. And hope is the most dangerous thing in the universe. The crowd was silent for a long moment. Then someone started clapping. Then another person, then more. Soon everyone was applauding. Not because Jiwoo had said something inspiring, but because she had told them the truth. And the truth was what they needed to hear.